the basics, just the blue light.
Welcome everybody. Very good, I'll start with the opening prayer. We gather to make decisions for our community. May we use only our best skills and judgment, keeping ourselves impartial and neutral as we consider the merits or pitfalls of each matter that's placed before us, and always act in accordance with what is best for our community and our fellow citizens. Acknowledgement to country. We acknowledge and respect the traditional owners and of the ancestral lands of the Limestone Coast. We acknowledge elders past and present, and we respect the deep feelings of attachment and relationship of Aboriginal people to country. I'd just like to bring your attention to the matters in regard to live streaming. Please note that this meeting is being live streamed, recorded and published in accordance with Council's live streaming and recording and public meeting policy. To those present in the gallery today, by attending a public meeting of Council, you are consenting to your image, voice and comments being recorded and published. Anyone who is invited to speak will be recorded, and their voice, image and comments will form part of the live stream and recording. Thank you very much. Any declarations of interest from the members? Being none, we have a public forum, and I'd like to invite Gina to inform the members of your concerns around Robinson Street parking.
Hi, I work on Smith Street, opposite the police station, so that end of Smith Street, not the other main bit of Smith Street. About a month ago, we were concerned when we got to work where we have parked. I personally parked for over 6 years on a Robinson Road where there was no restrictions at all signed. We got to work on the 20th of June and we found that one side has totally been made to 2 hours of parking. We are concerned that there are a lot of people on Smith Street that were on that section of Smith Street, the west side of the roundabout, that park on there. Not many people who go shopping go there. We have a lot of study days. Limestone Coast is next door to us that have a lot of workshops, etc., that people need to park for more than 6 hours, sometimes 8 hours. I work an 8-hour day from 8 o'clock till 4:30, 3 days a week. It doesn't really affect me because I get there early. I have a car park, but I am concerned for the other people that work on that street. I did get a lovely letter from Mr. Naracoorte stating that we could park elsewhere, and that one of them was said that we could park on the Riverside Creek Drive. That isn't really viable because I do remember a while ago that was actually going to be changed in the near future to carry-on parking or something like that. But that also is parking that the unmarked people, employees, park on. So really, if you go down there, there's not much parking there at all. I'm not asking for the whole street to be 2 hours of parking, but to have a few more non-restricted, because you do have the chiropractor there, and you do have the Intuit and the Bank SA, and also Dimlash. I'm just naming a couple of the other businesses on the corner. Yeah, if you could just reassess that, that would be lovely. Maybe to unrestrict it all together. I'm not one for public speaking, so I'm just rambling on now. But yeah, if you could reassess what you have done, that would be lovely. If you'd like to know any more answers, I can.
So Gina, your preference would be?
At least 5 or 6 of those car parks to have no restrictions on the north side of the west side of the roundabout on Robinson Street. I do have signatures also. I went down for a quick walk this afternoon from most of the businesses there to get back up on this as well.
Do any of the members have any questions? Councillor Turner.
I've got a question. Would longer parking, as in 2 hours and 4 hours, make a difference for people that go training? I know you mentioned there that some people train for. What's a typical training time?
Most of the training would be 6 hours minimum. But just for our workplace, if we have a care workers meeting there, like an orientation day or a multi-study day, it's usually 9 till 3:30, 4 o'clock. If you made it like a 4-hour parking, it doesn't help us in a way for the people who work there, because we'd have to go change our car every 4 hours. We're not going to lock our office and go shift our cars, if that makes sense.
Yep. Thank you.
That helps.
Wanda, would you like to make a comment?
Yes, Mr Mayor and councillors. When Gina was talking about having some extra parking that's only 2 hours, we were suggesting that perhaps along the side of Intuit, where the Intuit shop is from the roundabout corner through to their car park. It's 3 or 4 parks there, because I've been parking there on Robertson Street for 10 years now, and it's always full from the people who work in the bank, in Limestone Coast Training, at Centrelink, Bowendick, Hanson Print, and sometimes the people who work for the security people park there as well. Not that they're work cars, but the people who are actually working there. They all work for 8 hours. And I have students from 9 to 3, but I often do study days as well at Limestone Coast Training, so those students could be there from 9 to 5. And they're all coming from all over the place. So, you know, to make it restricted parking, that's what I've had just the last few weeks, is those students have really complained. And a few of them used to go, after they've been sitting for so long, they'd walk down the street if they didn't have to go and move their car, and buy a coffee to go home. Now, if they've got to move their car, they just get in the car and drive home. And the other thing we noticed with the Bowendick girls that were coming from Mount Gambier, they used to come a bit earlier, go down the street, buy a coffee, and then come to our meeting. And now they're not doing that. They actually, the last time, organised coffees in Penola, bought their coffees in Penola, and then came to the meeting. And we have 16 to 18 coming from Mount Gambier, Nelson, and all the town doing that. So I'm not sure that it's actually helping the little shops at all. And it's certainly impacting on those employees who are working on Smith Street. So
Sure. Thanks very much, Wanda. Any questions? Thanks very much. Could I ask someone to move that the minutes of the 27th of June be taken as read and confirmed as an accurate record of the proceedings? Councillor Turner, Councillor Goodman, all those in favour? Thank you very much. Carried. No matters laid on the table. Mayor's report. I move that the report be accepted. If there are any questions, seconded by Councillor Downwood. All those in favour? Carried, thank you. Elected members' reports. Councillor Crosling.
Just wanted to touch on a couple of things that I attended over the last couple of weeks. Last Monday at the library, which I think everyone would have got correspondence in regards to the Naracoorte Services Network Services Group meeting, which is held about once every 4 months. So it's all the services groups from around the Limestone Coast come together to kind of chat about what themes they're seeing in the community. It's probably sad to note that there's, from the kindergartens filtering through, a rise in domestic violence. Could be obviously factors of obviously financial hardship, have seen an increase in domestic violence in the area, and St Vincent de Paul do food vouchers and so forth, and they have seen a significant increase in families needing support for food vouchers, as most people are paying their rent and their phone bills and so forth, power bills, and not having any money left for food. So they've seen a significant increase of around 50 families a month seeking food vouchers in our area. But it was a great networking event. About 15 groups were represented from Mount Gambier all the way through. So it was a really good meeting to attend, just to see what's out there in our area for people to access if needed. I also attended the art gallery meeting last Wednesday. Lots of exciting stuff happening at the art gallery. The Barbara Hanrahan exhibition just finished. It was a fabulous exhibition, and they had the Rodbacks opening last Friday night. And I also attended the active storytime in the caves on the first week of school holidays on a Tuesday, which was run by the library team. And I just want to congratulate the library team on a fabulous 2 weeks of school holiday activities. There was something on every day in the library for kids to do on the school holidays, which was well attended, and just great to see there's so much happening for families in the school holidays.
Thank you. Councillor Ross.
Just a quick one. We just did Councillor Turner and yourself attended the high school for the part 2 of their presentation day in regards to students in Year 10 doing presentations into problem-based learning. So just to give you a bit of an update, there was a further 7 presentations that were done on issues that they thought were relevant in the community, touching on water fountains in the high school. So it was an interesting one. But the other things that they touched on though was quite interesting was the housing and rental crisis. They come up with a concept and a plan of what they thought should happen in regards to constructing of units to improve the opportunity for people to get housing. Other business opportunities were around the escape room, bowling alley, an Afghan restaurant, and another concept was to try to encourage the AFL gather round to come into the region. So that was quite interesting. But they were all really well researched, and there were some pretty good ideas and some good enthusiasm. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Councillor Downwood.
Yeah, Monday night I attended the NAHEC's monthly meeting, and I just wanted to report that they've just had an ongoing accreditation visit from the relevant bodies, and they've pretty much passed up a few minor issues with training, which will be addressed with a follow-up to be held in about 3 months. The hospital has commenced using electronic medical recording, and Naracoorte being the first one of the sub-regional hospitals to take that up. And the benefits will include access to patient medical records, the histories, access to external experts, and emailing summaries of discharge ordered to nominated GPs within 4 hours of a patient leaving the hospital, and with the benefits to the patient safety and legibility of some doctors reporting and whatever. So, although I think everything's online on computer now, so it's not like the old days where you had to guess what they've written for you on a script. Currently, we've got 20 aged care beds that are available for the aged, I guess. Which is actually the benefit of that at the moment. There's no shared rooms for people in Morton or whatever, so there is a little bit of a benefit there, obviously. The intention to renovate number 10 Cedar Avenue with a view to rental, but one of the main ones that we're putting forward was a call for volunteers to assist at the hospital. And that can be as simple as somebody's got the time to go up and spend time listening to the elderly or whatever, and just spending some time with them and, pass their time away. So if anybody's got time, the hospital would love to hear from you, or anybody that might be out there that might be keen to assist. But thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Downwood. Councillor Turner.
Thanks, Ross. I attended the AGM of the Naracoorte Business Association along with the Deputy Mayor. The President was re-elected, Thomas Short. There's a new Secretary, Chloe Lloyd. Chloe's reasonably new in town. She does have a marketing degree and supported digital marketing as well, and she actually works at Mini Jumbuck, so she was a recommendation, and Jana's done a fantastic job. So I think that gives that business association some good support, considering they've launched their new website going forward. It was a fairly good meeting. It was well attended. and one of the ideas that came up towards the end in general business was around a similar theme from the presentation at the high school, which was perhaps a way of taking advantage of the migrant community and their food and their culture. And it was suggested that I imagine there's a lot of talent and experience in knowing how to cook the food from their region and their cultures, but there probably isn't the lived or taught experience in running a business. So it might be an opportunity for the Business Association, Council and others to look at creating perhaps a space where we can mix some business expertise with some multicultural food. And I think that's something that this town could really benefit from and might be a draw card for the town. So the meeting was good, and along with yourself and Councillor Ross, I attended the presentations at the high school. I thought it was excellent and great work. The presentations are really around a business idea that they have to come up with, and they have to think that through in terms of a proposition, the target audience and a budget, and bring it to almost a presentation stage. I think that was good, and it was encouraging to see the younger people, and I think it's good for us as a council to attend that, to get some of the ideas from that particular demographic. They're the voters and the residents of the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Turner. Councillor Goodman.
Thank you. On the 29th of June, I attended the SA Local Government Grants Commission information session that was held here along with the Mayor and Deputy Mayor. It was really helpful in understanding the approach that's used by state and federal government in allocating grants to council areas, and also understanding how council can use those funds. On the 18th of July, we held our first Botanical Working Group meeting, which was attended by Councillor Maguire as well. This was my first meeting, and it was a really congenial and constructive atmosphere in the room, chaired by Mr Willsmore. The community members on that group certainly bring a lot of knowledge and experience to the table, and I look forward to learning a lot from them. The group has agreed that we'll meet again shortly to develop a short list of appropriate street trees that meet the various requirements of roadside plantings. And just to second what Deputy Mayor said about the school holiday program in the library, I attended the last session on Friday the 21st. It was celebrating the Southeastern Red-tailed Black Cockatoo, so I was there in a work capacity, but it was a very welcoming and engaging environment with lots of people walking in as well as those who'd registered to attend, so there was definitely a lot of positive feedback for the work that's going on there.
Well, thank you, Councillor Goodman. Any other members wish to speak? No. Thank you very much. Mr Smart.
Nothing from me on account. It's my first day back. I much prefer to be at work rather than holidays.
Are there any questions of the Chief Executive around the report?
The key projects report.
Okay.
It's there for your information and questions. You'll note it's for 22-23 financial years. So next month it'll cross over to the current budget projects. They're all fairly self-explanatory items on there.
Any questions around Keith?
Just not a question, but a comment. I did the Creek Walk on Sunday and noticed the new Creek Walk signage popping up around the place, and it looks fabulous. Looks a lot nicer than the old stuff that we had, but it's really nice.
Thank you, Councillor Crosland. Councillor Dennis.
A question in relation to the CCTV. What technology level are we unveiling now? Are we able to pick up what sort of detail, say licence plates, etc.? I know that could be key information if we're looking to prosecute offenders and things like that. As the CCTV being rolled out, effective in that aspect?
Ross, you can probably answer that one better.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Depending on Councillor Dillon, depending on the locality, we are looking at number plate recognition. We're currently looking at suitable locations such as the Market Square Playground. We've installed one of late, and potentially at the NRL access gates and the egress points of the station as well. But no, not all cameras do.
Any other questions of the Chief Executive on key projects?
Right. Okay, what have we got next? Finance report. We don't have Alex, so that's your domain.
Questions?
Again, there for your information, any questions that I may be able to answer. We'll note we're a little bit short on our management team this week, this month. I think we're still in a healthy position, and manager corporate finance and corporate has detailed the grants commission payments received in advance, which were received 100% in advance this time rather than the 75% in previous years, and what started out in probably 50% other years. So it's only impact on us is a cash flow impact, not any actuals.
Any questions around finance? Being none, we have a recommendation about carry forward.
So, sorry, I should stand too.
Yes.
So,
Yeah. On both legs.
both legs. The report 11.2 budget update, as Ms Edmonds has detailed, generally the projects that are delayed from last financial year that we wish to carry over and be accounted for in 23-24 financial year, either started or equipment ordered, and supply issues are getting here. So I think most of them are fairly self-explanatory, and it's just a completion of our projects from 22-23 to carry over this financial year.
I noted in the explanation that it said the following, that the managers, the directors were looking to see what was going to be carried forward. Are these all the items that are going to be carried forward, or may there be some others?
No, at this stage, best of our knowledge are all the projects. As noted in the report, this has sometimes come back September, October for consideration, which by that time most of them have been completed. So it doesn't make much sense in bringing it to council at that point in time. So we've brought that forward for each year will be brought to council's attention in July, so you can actually make decisions that are timely and relevant.
Any questions? There's a recommendation. Would someone like to move that council endorses the carry forward capital expenditure for 22 from the 22-3 budget? Councillor Dennis, Councillor Grundy. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Minutes and recommendations from council committees, from the Strategic Asset Planning Committee minutes. Would someone like to move that the minutes be accepted as they are? Councillor Dennis, Councillor Downwood. All those in favour? Carried. A recommendation from the committee that the council provide a design and costing of a single lane sealed road with a 6 metre wide pavement and 4 metre seal with a recommended 80 kilometre speed limit for Miles Road at Hynham. Would someone like to move to that effect? Councillor Grundy, Councillor Turner. All those in favour? Carried. Further recommendation that the council administration provides an alternate concept for Musgrave Avenue, Lucindale, being concept 1 with angle parking for community support. So it reads with angle parking, and we are seeking community support on that motion. Could someone like to move that? Councillor Goodman, Councillor Crosling. Thank you. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Reports for decision. Mr McCroskey, have you got any comment around that?
Thank you, Mayor Ross. Myself and Mrs Collins undertook the request of Councillor Maguire in regards to electronic boards They are, as you can see, quite expensive in some regards. Probably more so is looking for a suitable location in regards to where they can be put and placed, and therefore we may be able to provide some more suitable costings, i.e. getting power to those localities, and whether we go a single side or a double side electronic board if council wish to move in that direction.
I did note that you said where they could be put, so there'd be more than one electronic sign. Is that anticipated?
Well, that'll be a secondary question, is whether there's just one location we want to install them or whether there's duplications either side of Naracoorte, north, south, east or west.
Councillor Maguire.
I'm happy to move the motion, Mayor. A second that.
And which one would you like to move?
Oh, sorry. The first one. Sorry.
Please check.
Yes. And if I can just speak to it, I do think it all comes down to the location as well. If we can't find a location that's suitable, there's no use going further with the investigation.
Thank you, Councillor Maguire. Mr McCroskey, can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Goodman? I'll reserve your right to speak, Councillor Goodman. Mr McCroskey.
Yeah, just one further point to add, Mayor Ross, is because our main arterial roads are on DIT roads, that's the other challenge we'll have in regards to making sure that we align to DIT requirements as well. So that could be problematic depending on the locality and setbacks and so forth.
Thank you.
I'd like to speak to it as well, but if the mover wants to speak first.
No, I've said.
Dennis.
I'd like to thank those that I think there were several members that brought this to the attention of council. I like the aspect of the revenue stream that could create as well. We'd have to be pretty careful about what we put on the sign, but that application form that was provided was quite interesting as well. Perhaps with our 3 entrances, we've got 4 if you include the one from Lucindale to town, we could explore a stage program whereby we do a sign a year, and like with the deflationary sort of nature of the economy, I don't think it's going to cost us a huge amount of extra money as it probably would have had in the previous 5 years, but we could do a sign on each entrance every 12 months or something of that nature to break the cost up over a number of years. But I think it certainly would add to the aspect of our combined wish to have a go-ahead town, and for those that come to our town and also that live here, that we're moving ahead and showing a bit of innovation.
Councillor Goodman. Can I just get one point of clarification? So the motion is quite clear, investigate potential options. There's nothing in there about costing. That's...
Well, the part that stood out for me in that motion is and locations. So I'd be waiting to hear further back from the administration. Yep. If they came back and said, look, we're too restricted with DPTI roads, or there's no suitable locations, well, I'm sure they're not going to progress with potential options. But if they do find locations, I'm just reading into that recommendation, they'll bring both back to council. So I'm actually happy with the first recommendation.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Councillor Goodman.
I'm very happy that we proceed with looking into options and locations for the electronic signs. I also note further up in the agenda, there was reference to moving ahead with the review of the Francis Master Plan and the Lucindale Master Plan, and I'd like to flag that maybe having a discussion with those communities about whether or not this is an option that they would like in their towns as well would be a good step forward in making sure that all of our community is catered to, because I do know that there were members of the Lucindale community who were talking about this kind of functionality.
Thank you, Councillor Goodman. Any other discussion? Councillor Turner.
I'm just wondering, to clarify that motion where we've got an X there, whether the mover and the second would be happy to insert the word multiple.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, well picked up. Thank you. Yes. Sorry.
Take that amendment as read. Any other discussion? Being none, the motion is that, as you can read, the location for the installation of multiple electronic notice boards, signs. I suppose you can remove the /S most probably. Now it's multiple notice board it was already there most probably, in real terms, in the Naracoorte Township. All those in favour? Oh,
So just to clarify, this specifically notes the Naracoorte Township. Considering our other townships in the region will be something we could do at a later date.
yep, absolutely.
Initially? Would you say initially? Initially in the Naracoorte Township?
In fact, that's what the motion says. You know, it'll be Naracoorte, and then it certainly can be brought forward by the communities as they see how it works. Any further discussion? There being none, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Operational report. Mr. Willsmore's not present.
Have you taken any questions? Information is there.
Councillor Grundy.
Thank you, Mayor Ross. Mine's in reference to the road grading map that's been supplied in the report, and it sets out there that there's a number of red roads which are essentially not graded in our first round, I would presume, depending on the age of the map. I'm going to presume that it's relatively current, and we've had a good opportunity to get that first round of grading done, I would imagine. So my question is that I presume that there's been money allocated in the previous financial year which reflects the seasonality of the calendar year as far as the opening rains come in April or May or June or thereabouts when the grading is set to take place. It looks like the first round won't be completed until the next financial year, so my question is two parts. The funds which were allocated for last financial year, will they remain dedicated to that road grading, that first round of road grading? And secondly, would that impact on the number of road grades which were, without knowing where these roads sit exactly on the strategy? I'd like to see that those roads don't miss out on one of their grades on account of them slipping into the following financial year. So I hope that's clear, that question.
Yeah, no, it's clear that they don't miss out on the funding as we roll from one financial year to another.
Or a grade.
Yes. Or a grade.
I'll attempt to answer some of it. So, I think the map is at a point in time, so I'm not 100% sure what that date was, but it would be probably at least a couple of weeks out of date by the agenda preparation, etc. So hopefully some of those red are now green.
I can confirm that Ellison's Road is the green, but
yeah, so that we can provide an update on exactly where things are. May also need to perhaps revert to table where the previous table that we had in the report. So I think the map is good, but where it showed one or two grades had been completed in a year as well, I think provide additional information. From a financial perspective, my understanding, and I'll seek clarification from Mr. Willsmore on his return, is obviously the seasonality of patrol grading quite often will cross the financial year. My thinking is for a patrol grading program, that date is irrelevant. The budget is relevant, so 22-23, we had initial budget of 765,000. We, through a budget review, that was increased to 865. Now, year-to-date spend, checking this morning, was about 963, so we've expended the funds. So if we either go over or under, so that because it's operational funding, those funds don't then carry over the next year. So so patrol grading is conducted in a year. That's when it's expended. So a lack of funds shouldn't prevent the patrol grading being carried out because that's what we've said in our AMPs, that's the service levels, subject to a few issues, seasonal and requirements. Then council will consider, if we go over that spend in any given year, consider a budget review to ensure that can be done. So short answer is, shouldn't impact on the actual, those red roads getting done, just a timing matter. That answer your question? I may not answer at all, but...
So thank you, Mr. Smart.
I think the point there is actually that the budget for the year was actually 765, and we've now expended
It was 865, yeah.
865. Yeah, so we've expended another 100,000
Over and
on
above.
above that. Planning and compliance. Are there any questions, Mr. McCroskey? Have you got some comment?
Thank you, Mayor Ross. Nothing further to add apart from you'll note there that we've gone out to request for quote for the master plans for Lucindale and Francis. And as of late, I've received a number of calls expressing an interest in those tenders. So hopefully hear back from those early August and we get something to the August council meeting.
Any questions of Mr. McCroskey around planning? Thank you. Community engagement.
That's me.
That's you. That is you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you. I'm happy to take any questions, but it's really just an information report. We've had another busy month, and we've got a lot of things moving forward as well, so it's going to be great. It will be.
Thank you, Josie. We are at publications and documents and questions with notice. Councillor Dennis, your question, has that been answered to your satisfaction?
Thank you, Mayor Ross. Yeah, I don't know whether everyone's aware of that corner. It's as you come across the Hynham Caves Road, across the Lancoop, between the, and it is a very dangerous and blind corner, and there's often machinery going across, but I've been instructed that it's a DIT road, so we have been, our officers, our Director of Infrastructure and Services has contacted them and made them aware of the issue, and I look forward to their response and action being taken, and I'm sure the community will keep an eye on it.
Thank you, Councillor Dennis. It's a really bad intersection. I was only there a fortnight ago and thought how dangerous that would be. So hopefully, you know, we can get something happening there.
Just to add, we've got a meeting with the regional manager and one of their directors of DIT to go over a number of issues in early August. That'll be one of them, but various frustrations that we have with their processes and design issues. So that'll be added to it.
Councillor Ross.
Just a question, obviously in reference to what Councillor Dennis has asked there too, is that obviously the speeding limits leading in and up to that corner, right to that intersection. I just noticed on the weekend, for the first time driving out there, the speed limit's changed from 110 down to 100. So when did that occur? So going in that, do we ever have any consultation in regards to into speed limit changes? Yeah, so it's just changed. So it was just, there's only, normally you go into road and you go into, you know, press the cruise control and all of a sudden, it's changed to 100. So I didn't know whether you were aware of that.
This road, they make the rules.
Yeah, no, nice to
Make their rules.
We have a question on notice from Councillor Rayner. I'm going to disallow this question as to it being a little vague. And the reason for my disallowing the question is that we all wish to have good road maintenance and efficient utilisation of plant and equipment. And to that end, can I suggest that Councillor Rayner speak with your fellow elected members and the Chief Executive Officer around some terms of reference in regard of what you would like from this answer, and if that would involve setting up some terms of reference for a third party to look at reviewing that. I think that would be appropriate, and all of these questions will be addressed by the Council in August when we look at our AMPs of roads and infrastructure. So that's an ideal time to, over the next few weeks, to gather your thoughts and talk with other elected members and come to the table and we can certainly work something out around that.
I'm happy with that.
Thank you, Councillor Rayner. Motions with notice. What have we got? Nothing. Questions without notice. Questions without notice. Questions without notice. Councillor Downwood.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Smart, you may or may not be able to answer, but having been your first day back, and it's more a question for Mr. Willsmore. But last night when we got home from the meeting, I noticed on Facebook that the truck wash was inoperable. Do you know about that, or the reason for it being inoperable, or how long it's going to be out for? Or?
I can answer it because I saw the same post and sent a question to Mr. Willsmore. So it was an issue with a pump, and the backup pump didn't kick in, and it's now back operational.
That's sweet. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Smart. Questions? Any more questions? No. Wonderful. Any motions without notice? Councillor Turner.
I had a motion prepared and thought around the Robertson Street issue to try and resolve it efficiently, and I'm going to seek your advice on whether you would be prepared to accept the motion. I don't think there's a massive hurry, so I'll read out the rewritten motion that I'm preparing, and you can either accept it tonight or we can put it on for discussion as a motion with notice for the next meeting. But originally I had thought that we could convert 5 of the 15 timed parks on the northern side of Robertson Street between Macrae and McGarry Crescent to a 4-hour parking, which is why I asked the question this evening, thinking that the training sessions would last 4 hours. My initial thought in looking at that was actually to remove 5 of the 15 2-hour parking and make them free parking. And if I was proposing a motion, my motion would read, and I don't want to get too operational. I did actually copy in the CEO and Mr. McCroskey today. So I'll take your advice, and if you feel this should be a motion on notice for next meeting, I'm happy with that too. But I'll move it now if it's accepted, that the administration remove 5 2-hour parks on the northern side of Robertson Street between Macrae and McGarry Crescent at their discretion. I'm happy to speak to it a bit further.
If you
I wasn't aware there was going to be a presentation tonight, but I had some feedback and some discussion with some members about it, and I've walked and driven the street a number of times. I don't work far from there, and I noticed that street can be empty at times and can be full at times, and I feel that having a 2-hour parking restriction all down one side of that street is probably a little bit over the top. Sure, you need some time parking. There are businesses both sides of the street. I'd be open to shifting time parking to both sides of the street, but I'm not a parking time expert. But I do feel that there is an issue there, and I think that tonight some issues where we're pushing people away from entering our main street or not providing the type of service that I think that we need to provide for the sake of a 2-hour time park when there would be 10 2-hour time parks still down on the northern side of the street. I think it's an elegant solution, but I don't want to offend the administration by trying to suggest something that of telling them how to do their time parking. But I think the motion I'm putting up actually supports the problem that was addressed tonight. So I'm still happy to put it up tonight as a motion without notice and see what commentary there is around it, and if I get a seconder or if you accept it.
Would someone like to second that motion? Councillor Rayner. Would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor Rayner?
I think it makes perfect sense what Mr. Turner's put forward.
Thank you, Councillor Rayner.
I've had a good look at, driven along and had a good look at all the parks as well.
Thank you.
Bottom ends hasn't got 2 hours down by King Craig's.
Correct. Further discussion? I have plenty. Councillor Ross.
Well, I just need to know whether you're going to accept it or not, because if you're going to accept the motion, I'll probably need to remove myself from the chamber. Because the reason being, I operate a business on that street, so, and I've got staff who use that street as well. So
I am going to accept the motion,
So
Councillor Ross, and so if you feel conflicted,
there's a perceived conflict. So
thank you very much.
From the
Councillor Goodman.
Just seek a clarification. The motion as it currently reads is to remove 5 2-hour parks. It could be interpreted that means taking those parks away, which I don't think the intention of the motion is, but maybe it would be clearer if we said change or change them to unlimited parking.
Yeah, that was going to be my question for clarity.
It's unrestricted.
Well, if I was to change the motion, it would be to replace 5 of the 2-hour parks with free parking.
So unlimited parking.
So you'd end up with 5 unlimited parks.
5 more and 10 2-hour parks. Look, there's 3 at the back of the police station. There's 2 at the back at Mott Finnis in the middle. It's not a bad section, and it provides, if you like, 4 parks at the. I'm speaking this again, but 4 parks at the massage end, whatever they do, and chiropractor, and another 5 parks, 6 parks down towards IT, and that end of the street, which is probably where the business community would park and maybe even accessing the furniture store. So the motion would read that we replace 5 of the 2-hour parks on the northern side of Robertson Street with free parking.
If I could ask Mr McCroskey to make some comment around planning, please.
Thank you, Mayor Ross. Councillor Turner is correct. There's 15 on the northern side between McGarry Crescent and Macrae Street. There is 66 in total along Robertson Street car parking space. Out of those, 23 are untimed car parking spaces. Time parking has been on Robinson Street since 2009, as far as I could go back, and it has, yes, the formation has changed with the upgrades to Robinson Street, and the signage has recently been reinstated. Our compliance officer has been out there undertaking monitoring of the Robinson Street area, as well as Ormerod Street and Smith Street. Feedback from the community generally is a consensus there's a lack of parking or perceived lack of parking. Therefore, one of the best tools that council staff have up their sleeve in regards to ensure traffic flow and visitors can stop and visit is obviously time parking. So with the master plans, we've recognised Robinson Street, Ormerod Street and Smith Street are the key main streets for the shopping precinct. That's the reason why we've had time parking on Robertson Street also. So we've tried to look at it from a sort of practical perspective, noting there's neighbourhood zones there as well as businesses. We had a request in 2021 from a local business there to put it back to 1-hour time parking, but at the time, given the fact that we thought it was probably a bit unrealistic, we've set it at 2-hour parking across most of that time parking along Robertson Street that is timed.
Mr Smart.
Observation or question, and we're not offended by the motion because we will do what has to be done. By having untimed free 5 such parks, because people are generally fairly clever on establishing where they can park for long periods, we have to be careful that it may not actually add any assistance to those that are seeking it, because others just may park there because they know they can park there all day. So it just may be a consequence of what we do. It may not actually provide the solutions to those that need it. Doesn't mean it won't, but that might be a consequence of the benefit doesn't go to those that are then wanting it. But, okay.
Councillor Turner. Downward.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I was having a look at it today, and I also considered that we look at the parks that are on south of Macrae Street, south of Robinson Street, alongside the hotel. There's 5 parks there in front, alongside the hotel, and across from the I think there's a hairdresser there. 5 parks in that area. They're 2 hours, and then at the further end, Jones Street, there's 10 parks I think on Jones Street, south of Robinson Street. And those are actually only our parks. but consider whether the time on those parks could be lifted as well. With those, they're far enough away from the street not to impact on that parking, I would have thought. And it's the whole parking issue of timing, well, it's highlighted the other day with Peter Greaves' memorial service, where the service is there and then it stayed on for the wake. So, people, quite a number of people were there for more than 4 hours, 5 hours probably. So, where we're relying a lot on the goodwill of our retailers like Woolworths and such to park there for free for those people. As a community, I think we need to be also giving back some spaces where people are able to come and park and spend time without having to worry about our compliance officer running around putting chalk on their tyres. But that's just for.
I can assure you, Councillor Downwood, our compliance officer does not run around and put chalk marks on tyres.
I actually had fun. I walked up and put chalk on his tyre when he parked out the back of the shop the other day for a bit of fun. But which he found quite amusing. But yeah, so anyway, I just put that out there for consideration as well.
I think we've run into a real issue around parking, and the whole issue of traffic movement. Do we need to maybe it's a way bigger issue than just Robinson Street. I'll take Councillor Dennis.
I don't know what the mechanism is, and I cannot find my meeting procedure handbook for the life of me, but it's probably a classic scenario where a motion without notice probably doesn't give us the time to consider. I think every time we create a solution, we create another problem as well, and I commend Councillor Turner for his action on this and trying to come up with a solution. But I think it's perhaps we could lay the issue on the table till the next meeting and then bring it back off the table, and maybe with a report that could highlight all the consequences in writing of said changes. Because if we do have 5 untimed car parks, they're not really going to allow people to say at a wake or something to park there, because someone working at a certain business will be just parked there all day. So all we're doing is just putting a car in that park all day, every day. So it's just there's sort of a lot to think about here, I think.
Okay.
I just wanted to mention the Macrae Street car parks that Councillor Downwood is discussing. I don't agree with taking those away from 2 hour car parks. You've got a hairdresser there. Can't remember now what's next to the hairdresser. Is it an insurance agent or something? Anyway, there's businesses there. The pubs obviously need those 3 car parks for lunchtime trade. And if we start going into Jones Street, you've got MGA, and you'll have very unhappy Water Dynamics who I've always advocated for the time parking there, because they get sick and tired of having visitors or people that want to park there all day when they actually need car parking for their customers. So I don't necessarily agree with, if we're going to start getting into that, well, then we just take the time car parking off the whole CBD, and then we just create an absolute chaos. This is the feedback we get from the community about the car parking. So we've done the time car parking to alleviate it, try and keep the traffic flow, keep the businesses happy, keep the car parks. We have a compliance officer doing his job. He is not revenue raising. And as a matter of fact, we've only raised less than 3 fines on Robinson Street, which is less than $200. So we're not revenue raising. He's doing his job. He's doing what he's employed to do, and is keeping people accountable. Read signs. We go to Adelaide, we pay $30 an hour car parking. We go to any other town and we walk a K to get to an appointment. I know we may not have all the we're not be able to solve all the issues of car parking, but I think businesses also need to be a little bit proactive in this. I work on Smith Street. I know we can't be pushing people technically into the private car park of Woolies, but I can tell you that's where majority of people park, or we park on Riverside Drive and walk across. Nothing's changing on Riverside Drive, as the lady mentioned before. Yes, that's in the master plan, but that's not happening at the moment. So Riverside Drive is still able to be parked on. There are still car parks available on that. I think businesses also need to be a little bit proactive on finding car parking for their staff and for people who come to visit. I know it's something that, you know, I just know there's blocks and there's places behind other buildings where other people park. So I feel like sometimes people just need to be a little bit proactive in helping themselves. Like I said, we've done the time car parking because all we hear from the community is there's a parking issue. So to start going, oh, let's take off time car parking here, here and here. Well, if we're going to do that, let's just not have time car parking. I'm happy to do the 5 on Robinson Street if that helps, but I don't think we need to be looking into any other sections of our CBD to lift car parking restrictions.
Councillor Maguire.
Yes, I want to support Councillor Crosling. I agree. It doesn't have to be complicated. The motion up there to me makes perfect sense. If we start going outside of that, there will be other businesses approaching us and asking for the same conditions, and before you know it, as we said, we'll have no time car parking. I'm happy to keep it simple and stick to that motion.
I ask the members whether they would like to proceed with this or whether they would prefer for more information. Councillor Dennis.
I've seen my previous comment and I've enjoyed the debate and I'd like to proceed.
You'd like to proceed?
Got a right reply?
You do.
Thanks.
Councillor Turner.
Yeah, Councillor Dennis is correct. He could have moved a motion, that motion lay on the table, which we would have voted on before this motion, but he's free to do that still. But to answer the CEO's comments, I've noticed that because we're on Smith Street, that I used to wonder why in the hell we filled up with, four-wheel drives and SUVs, and then they would disappear. And I realise now that in recent time, like very recent, we're talking recent years, that it's changed, and there's a lot of training that happens along that Smith Street area that wasn't there before, and I think that's why this area is quite specific. And I have looked at Robertson Street a number of times, and there are times when it is empty and it's not parked with people with businesses, and a number of businesses there have their own parking anyway. That Intuit down the end's got parking where Trev's used to be, Finn's got parking, we've got parking at the back, and Damien Ross has got parking at his. I think this is very specific, and I didn't want to open a can of worms that we review parking all over town, but I think what's specific about this is the amount of correspondence we've had, the feedback we saw tonight, and it's specifically about the change of the function of that Smith Street because of the training. These people come, they obviously sit for a block of 6 hours or whatever, and then they go, and I think this would really assist in promoting that. So I'm still happy to have the motion and voted on.
Thank you, Councillor Turner. Being no further discussion, of course, I put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Could you ask Councillor Ross, please, Mr McCroskey, to return? Motions without notice. No, we've had that. Item 20, matters to go into confidence, considered for confidence.